Have you ever wondered how some people are able to grow and scale a property business quickly? Well, today we're covering the 3 things that you need to focus on in order to scale your own property business. First of all, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. I'm excited to share this video with you and also an upcoming video next week of my brand new buy-to-let property. So let's get straight into it. How can you scale your own property business? Well, there's 3 parts to this, and the first one is your pipeline. Why pipeline? Well, this is often the hardest part to continually fill, is the pipeline of property deals. You know, good deals are hard to find at the best of times. And with the way the market constantly goes up and down and the buyer and seller's expectations constantly fluctuate, you've got to stay really on top of your property knowledge, but also you've got to make sure you're constantly looking for deals, you know, finding deals, analysing them, negotiating them, and then getting them through to exchange and completion. A good example of this is, say you set yourself a goal of buying 6 buy-to-lets in 1 year. You know, it's a fair example of how you could look to scale your buy-to-let portfolio. Well, 12 months in a year and 6 deals is the goal. You need to be buying, actually completing on a property every other month. That means if you start the year, you have offer accepted, it eventually goes through in April, and you haven't done anything else around that, well, you're 4 months into the year with 1 deal. You know, you can't do that if you're looking for 6 in a year. You need to continuously be viewing, offering, having offers accepted, and then on the back end, exchanging, completing, refurbishing. Otherwise, you won't hit your goal of 6. So pipeline is incredibly important, and in my opinion, should be one of your main focuses to start with. You know, once you start shoving the properties in, you can worry about the rest later. And for anyone who's thinking, well, you know, how do you actually find more deals? Well, it's going to come down to a few things. Estate agents, more direct to vendor, auctions, and ideally finding landlords. Okay, so these are all ways in which you can find more deals. So you do more viewings with estate agents, you do more direct to vendor leads through letters, leaflets and so on. You view more auction properties, make more bids, and then you actively seek more portfolio landlords. Why would you do that? Because if you can find and build a good relationship with a landlord who's looking to sell off a big portfolio over the next 2, 5, 10 years, well, he's gonna constantly be feeding you with deals from his portfolio. So there's 4 ways in which you can really put that into action and get building up that pipeline. Number 2 is finance, okay? Now, most people start off with a pool of money when they get into property, and that might be through their own savings, it might be through business cash flow, or it might be through inheritance. They tend to be the main 3 ways that you have money to invest into property. And then you would take one of those 3 and you would marry it up with a mortgage or bridging, or you might even buy cash. But usually you would marry it up with one kind of finance. Well, what happens when you continuously want to scale, add more properties to the portfolio, and you run out of that original pot of cash? Well, there are a few options available, and there's lots of options, but in this example I'm going to cover 3. The first up is crowdfunding, which is usually bigger sites, or it usually is new build sites, and maybe they're looking to raise a reasonable amount of money from lots of different investors, and they'll each be putting in a chunk at a fixed rate of return. Secondly, you've got joint ventures, where you might go into partnership with someone in order to keep growing that portfolio. You might go into a partnership at a rate of 50-50 split, or maybe you do 75-25 split, depending on who has more workload. One quick tip on that I would say is, if you do go into a partnership, joint venture, make sure you have a good shareholder agreement drawn up before you buy that first property. And then last of all, private investors, where you might loan some money at a fixed rate over, say, 12 months or 24 months, and you'll loan that at a fixed percentage, which could be anywhere from 5% up to 10%. Some people do more, but that's a little bit hairy. Now, what you might ask, why am I mentioning these additional options? Well, because you want to continually funnel the finance into your property business in order to continue that growth. And if you are doing step number 1 correctly, which is finding the deals, Now you are funding the deals, okay? And if you don't have the right contacts to do any of these, then you need to start building out on that network of yours and getting to know more people and putting yourself in a position to find more finance and funding. Now, last of all is project management, and that's because you have found the deals, you funded the deals, now they've exchanged and completed, now the work begins. So this is normally through the form of a refurb, or it could be a new build, okay? So then the build starts. So this is where your project management team take over. And this bit for me is definitely where you'd want to be looking to outsource as one of the first priorities. You know, if you are really trying to scale and trying to utilize these different parts, then you don't want to be wasting time by going in and doing refurbishments yourself. I know I can hardly talk since I've got a refurb going on up north whilst I'm trying to refurb this bungalow down here, but this will be the last one I formally do a lot of the work on. So these two are the main places I would focus your time and attention, because building that pipeline is got to be one of the most crucial parts, followed by finding the funding for those deals. Now, if you find good deals, you'll find it a lot easier to fund those deals. So that's where you need to put your focus first, followed by building up relationships and getting finance, and then I'd pass that off to a team. Now, just a few bonus things to mention for those of you that have stuck around, thank you. On the finance section, I mentioned private investors and joint ventures. Now, it might seem impossible to find them or that you don't know anyone that could fall into that category, but believe me, they're out there and they're probably closer than you think. I would start by looking at family, friends, colleagues, and I'd literally start by writing a list of everyone you know, literally everyone. Write a list of potential people that could have money in the bank, savings, might be interested in property, and you could form a partnership with them, or you could have them as a private investor. One more thing to add to that. When I've talked about money throughout this whole video, I want you to be super careful. When borrowing other people's money, you need to be responsible and safe with it. You need to treat it like your own money. Now, at this point, you might also be wondering, how do we pay back the investor finance? Well, this is where it's incredibly important, where you have to buy your buy-to-let or your flip project with profit margin. Sounds silly, right? But some people, of course, go out and buy properties and rent them out, which is a very good strategy, and I'm not discrediting that. But if you are to use this strategy and scale quicker using other forms of finance, you have to buy properties in which you can add value to. So that could be with a buy-to-let that you buy below market value, you add the value through the refurbishment, and then that profit on top is what you used to pay back the investor. Likewise, with a flip or a new build, you of course are already buying it with the profit in mind to therefore pay yourself, but also pay the investor. Now, what we've covered here today are the three main things I think you need for scaling. That's my opinion, that's what I've learned, and that's what I'm currently experiencing. Of course, there's lots of other things I haven't covered here today that we'll cover another time. But the main thing for you to do is follow these three, create some big lofty goals, chase them with every bit of hunger that you have. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.